Clive Richardson is an air traffic controller trainer, or trainer of air traffic controllers, and it happens right here in Palmerston North at the end of Aviation Way. You get out of your car, you whiff the silage, and all of a sudden you're in a world of virtual airports. How long have you been conducting this course, Clive?
The present course is from Hong Kong. They started about 6 weeks ago, and the customer has certain requirements. So they started with a basic course in theory, which we call the ICAO 051 course, which led into the 052 course, which is the teaching of aerodrome control, essentially what we have here, and to end off with the radar, which is called the ICAO 054 course. And then they do a bit of flying training here at Palmerston, and then head back to Hong Kong.
Right, fully trained, or ready for their first job.
They've learnt enough to fill their toolbox with some tools to be able to go back and start their on-the-job training wherever they would come from, whether it be Hong Kong, or we have Saudi students. We had a Saudi course just finished about 2 months ago, and we have another course starting in about 4 weeks. Over 30 Saudi budding controllers on the way, and we'll be doing the entire ICAO course with them as well, through all the disciplines.
But this impressive simulator has only been here a short time, since June, I understand.
Yes.
So how did it come to be here in Palmerston North?
Well, unfortunately, due to the earthquake in Christchurch,
Yes.
Airways had to very quickly think of a new location to train international students, as of course the earthquake caused a lot of concern with the international world, because they weren't too keen on sending students to a city that had just experienced such a terrible earthquake. So very quickly, with the assistance of Massey University, they came up with this location.
Because I understand 18 months ago this was actually a chicken coop.
I believe so. I haven't been in Palmerston that long. I've only been here 18 months myself. So
At the end of Aviation Way, there was a chicken coop, or something like that. But,
yes.
Massey Aviation had used these buildings
I
after the chickens.
I believe they did, actually. Massey have now moved to Milson, which is, in fact, right over there near the airport. And I believe they did use this facility some years ago. So when Airways first came in and had a look, I think they realised they had a bit of work to do here. Mm. But realising what they had to achieve, they pumped some money in and got it to what we have now.
And the conditions can be changed, the weather can be changed.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
It's quite remarkable, actually. When I think back on my 30-odd years, we used to have little blips dashing around the wall, and it wasn't terribly realistic. Now with this, we can simulate night, day, we can simulate snow, thunderstorms, rain, smoke coming out of aircraft, people running around the terminal building, dogs crossing the runway, birds flying.
So you can do bird strike.
We can do the lot. We can do the lot with the simulator. It's absolutely fantastic. If we had an aircraft with undercarriage problem, we could even do a fly past and actually have one of the gear retracted so that the student can see, using the binoculars, you can actually see very closely what the problem is and try and decide how he's going to deal with it. So it is very, very real. In fact, it's so real, we often have students coming out and fighting and arguing with the pilots because it's just so real at the time. So it really is. It's an
fighting
extremely
and arguing with the pilots.
We have the students act as pilots because it's extremely good training for them as well, because they get to see from the other side. So they all learn together initially, and then as they progress, we put more professional pilots to act as the pseudo pilots.
One of the trainers at the Airways Air Traffic Control Training Centre is John Willingham from UK originally, and he's about to show us some of the whiz-bang effects that can be achieved on one of the generic airports.
We have in front is the view that the controller would see from the tower, and then the desk has the information available to them. So that has his lighting panel, a clock, the middle screen showing all of the scheduled traffic that he's got, all the IFR traffic, all shown on there, and the right two screens, which have gone to sleep now, would have the weather display on there as well. So that just very basic, but mimics what we would have in a control tower. The board in front is the board that the controller will use to indicate where all these flights are with the flight progress strip. From the back here we have 3 positions where we can then pilot the aircraft. So what we do is we get our students to act as the pilot as well. So we have students as the pilots and a student as the controller. We have an instructor in there with the controller, and we have an instructor out here with the student pilots. The idea of the student piloting is that they gain as much information, as much knowledge while they're sat here watching as they do in their controlling.
So they know what it's like from both ends
yes,
of the operation.
And they see what their colleagues do, and they see how things develop, and they're watching on their screens here, so they learn from that as well. So they get exposure in there, and they get exposure into aviation on both sides, and that's ultimately what we're trying to achieve, is to give them as much knowledge as they can get. So the China Southern in front of us, the A320, all I need to do is click a button and this will start moving. At the same time, I'd have my headset on and I'm pretending to be the pilot talking to the controller. The controller's then issuing the instructions. And the simulator is good, it's technically correct. We've got the right aircraft, we've programmed the aircraft performance in, so it should act pretty much as well to a real aircraft. Okay, so the aircraft will now taxi down the taxiway, so we get it to the end. We would then do clearances and all our general air traffic talk that we need to do to get the aircraft into the air. And then in the simulator we can put it onto the runway and then get the aircraft airborne. He will take off, we can fly circuits, and we can do anything that an aircraft would actually do.
And you can control the weather conditions?
We have the ability to change the weather. We can reduce the visibility, we can make it rain. So we can also change the wind speed and the wind direction. So we can practice various ways and effects that these have on our controlling as to how we're going to do that. Reduce visibility, then limiting some of our rules and procedures that we can do. If we increase the wind, then the effect that wind will have on our aircraft performance. So we can look at all manner of different techniques and tools that we need to deploy when the weather reduces. So I can put the aircraft onto the runway now, which is just coming onto the runway, and then we would go through our normal calls to then get the aircraft into the air, and we can make this one take off. We have the lighting panel on here, so we can put the lights on. So I can put the approach lights on, I can put the runway lights on, and I can put taxiway lights on as well.
So you can make it night.
So we can make it night. Obviously, when the reducing visibility comes down, and we see it's quite hard now to see our aircraft. So it's an A320, so it's quite a reasonable size aircraft. But so the aircraft now is airborne, gone into our circuit. Quite difficult to see with the reduced visibility. So again, it's a technique which we need to teach our students. When we have poor visibility operations, then what do we do? Within Airways, then Wellington, Christchurch, Auckland, they all come and use this simulator, the one at Christchurch, to practice their low visibility operations.